Hi everybody, it's Alan here. This is part 2 of my recent vinyl finds for Aural explorers like ourselves. Now then, a couple of years back Chris Cole showed this, and I believe he described it as being non-musical or without melody, and it kind of made my ears prick up, and I listened to it, and it definitely has that kind of quality to it. It's purely electronic, JeanBaptiste Barrier, Pandemonium, and I managed to find a fairly cheap copy of this not long after. It's a great electronic record, and there's some dark, deep sort of sounds on here. It's not warbly, gentle, easy listening, but at the same time it's not difficult listening either. Like anything, you listen to it, it sort of becomes easy really, doesn't it? There was a sister album which he also showed, and I've been looking for ever since. And this one has 3 pieces. It's a different kind of feel to the other one. Not totally different, but there are only 3 tracks on here. Side 1 is one long piece. Now, we hear a lot of synthesizer albums, electronic albums, which just have one long piece per side or something. There's loads of examples of them. But this one, it is another brooding, it's building and builds up for a few minutes to get into it. But then it kind of creates this atmosphere. I can only best describe as almost like if you're on the surface of Neptune, or lost in the howling wastes of purgatory or something, and you can see nothing but grey for all around you, and every step you take towards the horizon it's still the same, a kind of bleak sound. It creates that kind of imagery. It's an interesting listen. It's not kind of antagonistic to the ear, but it's not the easiest of listens in the terms, as I say, it's not a happy warbly, oh, this is a nice synthesizer, but it really is fantastic. I suppose the nearest I can think of, it would be great as a soundtrack to Solaris. I mean, the Solaris soundtrack was brilliant, but this could really easily fit on top of that. It's that kind of empty grey void, or it's that kind of that planet which was like all liquid, or you know where I'm going with this. Side 2, the pieces are quite different. The first one actually has radio voices, which isn't always to my ear. I don't really particularly like that. But on this it actually works, and it's French radio, and it's mixed slightly low in the mix, so it doesn't overtake the synthesizer sounds and the electronics that are going on. And it's a really good listen. And the last piece is very different again, but it still has that kind of, none of this is sort of jarring against each other. It's a seamless album, but it still has kind of, what am I going to say? It has the atmosphere, but it's more of a kind of modulated synth, and it's a quicker sound, and it gets kind of built up and builds up a lot quicker, and it's far more arresting and grabs you. Really excellent albums, those 2. Highly recommended. I've spoken too long about it. This I showed in a live video, I believe. Il Wicker Untamed. It's a beautiful sleeve. It's an acid folk album, released 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. Fantastic, very similar to Comus. Now, for a long time I've been wanting to find their first album. This is Under Diana. They're a Swedish group, violin, acoustic instruments, etc. And it's a sort of pagan folk. Now, it does say on here, even better than Comus. And in places I think it is. The Comus album I don't think is a hugely great record at all. But these 2 albums together are really sublime in that sense. They have a kind of that pagan quality. And and they do have a real kind of sound of a forest floor, if you like twilight in the forest, and there is a sort of slightly spookier quality to the vocals. But I think they're great records. And not to everyone's taste, I don't think. They're not going to be, everyone's going to go, ooh, that sounds, acid folk sounds good. It's not, there's nothing cheery about this music. There's nothing cheerful about it at all. It's not to say it's incredibly depressing, because it isn't. But it has that kind of, slightly dark and mysterious feel to it. And you have to sort of engage with it. Not to everyone's taste, but I recommend exploring it if any of that sounds remotely interesting. I actually described it much better the first time I did this video, but I very rarely ever do a second take on a video. Anyway, for other reasons, and I've lost my track. Here is Ingoing Ring, the Glinting Spade, probably one of the most beautiful covers you're ever likely to see. All the stuff going on there. This again is a neo-folk. Let me just open it up. 1999 released. This is a later vinyl pressing because there wasn't one available at the time, and the cover is very different. Quite boring to look at, actually. But this is a great record. There are a couple of pieces on here, side 2, track 1 and the last track, which are just drones. You know, there's stuff going on, but they are a sort of drone. The guy who actually records this, he actually makes his own instruments. And as he plays some of that on here, there's droning, there's acoustic instruments in the main. Wonderful sounding record. I'll give you an idea by the titles what you're going to expect here. 2 wax dolls to thrum a glassy stem, cypher string on the tree in the dream of a queen, a bee at the dolmen's dell, Arrowsmith's fire. So you get an idea as a sort of fantasy edge, but it's not fantasy, but it kind of takes you places. There's something really quite beautiful about this. And I think the fact is that they put the effort into the cover, because those people who know about this record know what a beautiful album it is. It's quite a unique sounding album, partly because of his instruments. There's elements, I think, here of a slightly, very slightly, in places a sort of dead can dance. There's a sense of, it's not a Donovan thing because he's too twee. But it's hard to describe. A sort of slightly more mature sound, folk sound, and it's not traditional folk. You know, we call everything folk nowadays. It's basically acoustic. You know, there's sort of singer-songwritery, but it's not. It's more to it. There's a lot more depth here. It's almost like, this is going to sound over, but like he's been alive 1,000 years, and you know, he's speaking from another place at another time, but speaking to us all in the contemporary world. And it's such a shame with this beautiful cover, a bit like Odyssey and Oracle, there's a little mistake. That should say to thrum, and they've missed out the R. So close. And finally, absolutely, this is top quality. This was originally released in 1972 in France. Subway, American and English guy. The American, I think, wrote everything. And when you look at the cover, you think, what's this going to be? Some sort of medieval troubadour stuff? Not at all. This, again, is an acid folk, and I'm going to use the word, it's close to a masterpiece. When you see a list of acid folk records for people in the know, this comes in the top 10. And it is absolutely fantastic. The songs are superb, the vocals are superb. There's lots of stereo panning. There's a real restraint in the use of the effects, but when they're used perfectly. It's a wonderfully produced record. It sounds marvellous. The original record can sell for up to £1,000 because it's high quality. Not all records that sell for a lot of money, of course, are high quality. A lot of Vertigo Swirl albums aren't 5-star albums, but this is pretty darn close to a 5-star record. If you're into acid folk, anything sounding like that, psychedelic folk, this is going to be right up your street, and you have to listen to it. As soon as this video is over, get on it, because it's marvellous. This is a 2005 amber sound room pressing. It's also been released by Guess, and I believe in 2012, maybe later. Yeah, I think it may be more recent than that. The first song is the weakest. Now that to me is always a good sign because it can only get better. I highly recommend this. This track here on the side 2, Enturbulation Freeform, actually sounds like Amandul. They're like a cross between Amandul 2 and Amandul 1. It's just brilliant. There are drums, they're not just those two playing those two instruments, there are drums and other instruments on here. Just a wonderful, wonderful record. Now inside there's a nice little leaflet, fold-out leaflet with pictures of them back in the day, etc., etc. in this particular edition. This has to be heard to be believed. If you're into any folk music of any kind, or anything that you think, you want to hear that extra something special, I believe this is it. Anyway, that's it. Probably went on too long there. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves as best you can in this crazy world, and I'll see you all later. Cheers.